Hello, and welcome to The Enterprising Agent, a podcast for agents who want to work smarter, not harder. On today's episode, we have Dylan Schivley from the James Warren Group to talk about focusing on service over sales. Dylan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
So excited to have you here. Talk to us a little bit about the James Warren Group and what prompted you to start that business in the first place.
Yeah, so it's a long story, but I'll keep it short. I became my own first client because
Okay.
I went from car sales into retail sales. So there was an income change, yet
Hmm.
I was young enough to not want to change the lifestyle and line it up with the new income. I thought I could just figure it out. And yeah, the creditors told me no. So I started maxing out some cards. I had a car repoed. It
Oh my
was
gosh.
definitely not the best experience. But after that, I went searching on Google and trying to find, like, what do I do about this? How
Hmm.
do I go about fixing this? And what I came across was a company called Freedom Debt Relief. Now, I didn't know the difference at the time between what debt relief was versus actual credit repair. Now,
Hmm.
I'm only looking at, Credit Karma and stuff. And I'm like, okay, my scores keep going down. I don't know why. I call them and they make it sound good. And they're like, we have this process. This is how it works. And I'm like, awesome. Sounds like you know more than me. What do I need to do?
Yeah.
And now I find out, maybe I want to say it was about like 2.5, 3 months into it, as I had questions and would call and would get no answer. The only time I found that they would get back to me is if I didn't pay on the escrow account. So, for anybody who doesn't know, they settle your accounts. But even if you're making on time payments to things and you're current and good with other companies, they tell you you need to default there too, because you need to claim a hardship. So, the little bit of good you are doing, they're like, nope, everything needs to be bad. And
Oh
then it's
gosh.
easier for us to negotiate for you. So at the time, it made sense because I'm thinking, like, oh, I'll pay less money every month. I can keep some of that money. And I only got to give them a
Mhm.
little bit, which is less than what I'm putting out. Mathematically, it
Right.
made sense. I didn't understand what it would do to my credit though. So
Yeah.
as I'm looking at my app and I see it going down and down and down, I'd call them and I'd freak out. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Hey, we'll transfer you to this department. I'd get transferred like 5 or 6 different times. And then ultimately just getting hung up on, or somebody who wouldn't give me a direct answer. So I was mad. I fired them and I was trying to get the money back that I had in my escrow account, but they wouldn't give it to me. So when I fired them, I got really angry and I did what any logical citizen would do when social media existed. And I went to Facebook
Hmm.
and I made a big post about it. And I blew it up to everyone and I told them how mad I was at them. And,
Right.
don't go there. Nobody should go there because here was my experience. They want to get back to me. They want to give me straight answers. They made a promise that they didn't pull through on, and I gave them my money and they won't give it
Right.
back. So it was like half pettiness and then also half competitiveness of me was like, I'm going to do this on my own.
I
Because
love it.
imagine how many other people went through the same thing, but they didn't have the light bulb that clicked of complaining about it feels good in the moment.
Yeah.
But if you're still stuck with the problem, you still have to solve the problem. So I got really obsessed with like YouTube and Google. And then there was a course that I took and I started learning from people, finding out about the industry. And then fast
Hmm.
forward, we started James Horn Group because now I solve my own problem. I also helped a handful of people from Facebook because I would post about it, right? As I started
Right.
deleting things and it started working, I'd post about it. And then I'd get DMs and people are like, man, could you help me? Could you help me? And now I'm still working my job at this time, which I just landed into a managing partner role. So I just also
Hmm.
spent money that I've been saving to go buy into a store. And then I'm trying to help people for free on their credit. So as I'm like juggling both things, I'm like, I got to make a decision. I got to do something because this is blowing up. So I sold the store and I went full time with credit repair. And now here we are.
I love it. We refer to that around here as petty with a purpose. You can be petty,
Ooh,
but
I
what is
like
the
that.
reason behind it? Yeah, it's a great hashtag. Petty
I've
with
heard
a
that should
purpose.
be on a shirt.
Oh yeah, that'll be our first line of merch is our Petty with a Purpose merch.
I'd buy it.
So I love that you mentioned that this came out of that bad experience that you had, and the number of agents that I talk to that go, "I got my license because when we bought a house, we felt like we were uninformed, or when we sold our house, we felt like we were left in the dark more often than not." So, talk to me a little bit about that importance of service versus just how many clients can I collect. What has service and that high level of service and care that you give done for your business?
Yeah, so I take my experience of the things that I didn't like and I made it a non-negotiable. So this may be the first time someone hears that term or really understands what it means.
Hmm.
In your personal life and in your professional life, if you run a business or you're even a part of a business as an employee, whatever you're doing, you have to have non-negotiables, right? So when forming the business, what I didn't like is that it was very hard to get a hold of them. I didn't like the transferring from service to service. I didn't like that I wasn't set with the right expectation on how the journey is actually going to go. They only wanted to talk about the good things that were going to happen. At the end of all of this is what's going to happen. But they didn't properly prepare me for the downs we were going to go through and some of the confusing things.
Okay.
So my non-negotiables were when I start helping people, I'm going to make sure they know all of their options. I'm going to make sure that they have the proper expectation on the ups and the downs of the journey. And I'm not going to sell them something that I can't promise or guarantee will happen. So, specific to my space, a lot of people don't know, but yes, we can write dispute letters and things like that to try to challenge negative items,
Right.
but we are not the decision makers. So, we're submitting on a client's behalf to try to get an outcome. And most times we are successful. We're not 100%, but most times
Yeah.
we're successful. But what really helps this is when people understand that we are in this together.
Yeah.
So, and again, this is part of my consultation process when somebody, attempts to enroll with us when they want to know more. So it's setting those non-negotiables to make sure that the client gets all the right expectations. You don't oversell them, actually undersell them to the point where they may not want to move forward with you. But if you're telling them the truth, they will come back. Right. And this applies to real estate. This applies to any
Yeah.
version of sales. It's not just in the credit industry. So don't lie to your customers or your potential customers. Tell them the truth. It's very easy to do that. And it's
Hmm.
funny because I learned through the journey that all of the things I wanted to avoid talking about, once I started mentioning them, were the reasons people were signing up. So, for example, it's how long is this going to take? We immediately get like, oh crap, what if they're in a rush and we can't do this faster than what they need.
Yeah.
Oh, well, here's how soon we could get results. The best thing to do is here's how often the cycle goes. And
Hmm.
just because a cycle ends does not guarantee that there's going to be a change because the data is what matters. So if you didn't pay down any balances, open up something new, or close something, and we didn't get a successful dispute, which would equal a removal, nothing's going to change. But it's
Right.
okay if it doesn't change. That's why we do multiple rounds. That is a lot better than expectation. So even in real estate,
Hmm.
like, oh, I saw somebody post that we can close in 14 days. Can you close in 14 days? You tell them what the expectation is. Do you want to close fast or do you want to actually know what's going on and feel good about the purchase you're going to make?
Right.
There's a complete difference. So those are how we ensure. One of the many ways how we ensure service is being available, communicating, making the information we give digestible, so it's easier to understand for clients. We ask them a lot of questions to ensure they're understanding what we're saying, and those are the non-negotiables.
Hey there, superstar agents. Are you ready to turn for sales signs into sold celebrations? Well, buckle up because it's coaching time. Introducing the Enterprising Agent Coaching Program, a revolutionary coaching experience that'll have you selling houses like hotcakes. Visit theenterprisingagent.com for a front row seat to success. Picture it: more closings, bigger commissions and high fives from happy clients. With the Enterprising Agent, you'll become the rock star real estate agent that you were meant to be. And for a limited time, if you visit theenterprisingagent.com, you can sign up for a complimentary coaching session with me to find out if we are the right fit for you and your goals in real estate. So what are you waiting for? Head to theenterprisingagent.com now and let's turn your real estate dreams into reality. Because when it comes to winning in real estate, we have the keys to your success. I love that. And part of the reason why I brought you on the show and why I like the way that you work is that number one, laying out options is huge. We can do this and we might get this, or we can do this and it might equal this. What works better for you?
Yep.
And really having those or your client's best interest in heart. I know one of the first times that we connected, we talked a little bit about credit, and I was like, well, what happens if they just need to pay down a card? You'd be like, I'm not going to charge them for credit repair.
Right.
They can spend that money somewhere else. And you work with a lot of real estate agents just like I do. And, for better or for worse, there are some that have that client interest truly deeply at heart. And then there are the ones who are, let me tell you what you want to hear so I can try to collect a paycheck as quickly as possible. So, knowing that that's, again, part of our industry, unfortunately, tell me, how can being a true advocate for a credit challenged buyer that a real estate agent may have as a client, how can that ultimately help them in their business, both in the short term and the long term?
Well, there's so many ways. So actually, that's a really good one because I try to preach this a lot. So you're giving me the perfect floor to do this. So most times, agents will think of us when they have a client who has been denied. And I'm not
Right.
saying to stop doing that, but I want to show you where you're missing out on more business to help more people if you don't think of it these other ways. So let's say you have somebody who does qualify, but you're trying to figure out, man, their DTI is too high. Well,
Mhm.
we're not a bank, we're not lending them money, but let me show you how credit repair can complement that. A
Right.
simple conversation of saying, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, before paying these collections that are on your credit report that are already 5 or 6 years old, let's apply that money to these credit card balances right here, because this is how much credit card balances influence your score. This is the fastest and the only guaranteed way to see it go up. And we give
Right.
them the recommendation. So, but Dylan, you said DTI. Well, think the monthly payment when you carry bigger balances goes against your DTI, it counts towards it. So if we get them to lower their balances, the score is going to go up anyway, which is going to make it easier for them to qualify. Maybe that's the difference of them going from manual underwriting to automatic approval and good to go, right?
Yeah.
And then let's say if they have 4, 5, 6 credit cards and they had the money to pay some of those down, and that made the difference of $300 a month in payments, because now the new minimum payments on these cards are a lot lower. That is significant money. I mean, that's easy 20, 30, $40,000 of more home they could buy
Right.
just by the exchange of strategically placing maybe $2, $3, $4,000 in credit card debt on the right cards, right? So when it comes to people with high DTI, when it comes to people who have no credit, that's an obvious to send them over. We can help them build credit. We've been helping a lot
Mhm.
of people report their rent, and it also backdates. So the longest client we had that was renting was 24 years, and we got all
Oh, wow.
24 years to show up,
That's
right?
amazing.
So imagine if you have somebody who's been renting. I mean, most people, especially first-time home buyers, are a big chunk. Well, if it's their first home, they're probably renting. And so instead of telling them, hey, you're wasting your money by renting, I tell them, hey, do I wish your money would have went into a mortgage? Sure, but we can't change what already happened. But I'm going to show you how you're not
Right.
wasting your money, because we're going to apply that money to your credit report and it's going to help build your scores up, right? And that report's pretty quick. So you want to be an advocate for the clients that don't have the most perfect credit, or even if they have okay credit, maybe it's a difference of interest rate. You're battling a lot of people who are still waiting because of interest. Well, the only way to
Yeah.
battle that is to have a high enough score so your starting point at an interest rate is lower than someone with bad credit, Let's run the scenario if both people have money to buy down rate, but the person still has better credit, like client A has better credit than client B. Well, the starting point of which they have to buy down will bring them further, right?
Right.
So they're still saving money. So we tell people all the time, like, it doesn't matter if you have someone who qualifies. What about the people who did qualify, let's say FHA, and they were
Hmm.
talking about doing an investment, they want to buy multiple properties for any reason, or you even sold them on the refi, whatever
Yeah.
it is. Well, remember, doing a HELOC or refining, you have to qualify. And specific to a HELOC, if you're like, oh, you can, take your equity out as the down payment to the next one, you gave them this perfect strategy. Most people forget that you have to qualify for that HELOC. And the minimum credit score requirement is higher than even the minimum credit score requirement for a conventional loan. Most are right
Right.
around 680 to qualify. So if you're FHA buyer at a 580 that you gave no plan to after closing, no plan to fix his credit or her credit,
Hmm.
no plan to improve it.
Right.
Well, yeah, a year goes by and let's say they got 100,000 in equity. Amazing. But what happens when they find out they don't have access to it because you forgot to tell them that they have to qualify for that?
Right. Or refi to get rid of that mortgage insurance.
Right. There's so many scenarios. So to wrap that up, if you're in real estate for the long game, honestly, even if you're not, but I mean, it'll obviously apply mathematically if you are, but even
Right.
if you're not, the forefront of every decision that you make should be, how do I help this person? Now, stop the sentence there. Not how do I help this person get to the closing table so I can be paid? It's how
Right.
do I help the person? So, helping the person is improving their credit even if they qualify. Now, am I telling you to stop your transaction because they need a fixed credit before they qualify? If time allows it, great. If it doesn't, no, go ahead and close. But again, if you want to set them up for success and you want to increase the chances of getting referrals from their friends, family, clients, coworkers, and their sphere of people, you have to take care of the person no matter what their situation. People with bad credit feel it all the time. They get treated like their credit score, not as their name or not as their story, not as
Right.
their background. And I've seen plenty of times where people, as soon as they don't qualify, oh, I was working with this client for X amount of months. They finally let us pull credit. Nothing changed, blah, blah. And they're like mad at the client. And I'm like, well, what did you do to tell them how
Right.
important it was to get it done? Because if you explained to them and took the time instead of, oh, they're not qualified, let me go to the next lead, that's the
Yeah.
problem. Stop treating people like leads and treat people like people. And then you won't have to try to rush somebody to closing to get paid because you'll have more steady income because you're allowed to make a profit if you're taking care of people the right way.
Yeah.
So I could go on a whole
100%.
thing with that, but I'll pause
Oh,
there.
no, you and I are right in line. I tell the story. My first year in real estate, rookie real estate agent, no sales experience. I got my license on a whim, closed 19 deals, and of those, 10 started with a below 580 score with the very first time that I talked to. The lowest I had was a 510 credit score who when the first time we talked. And what I heard over and over was, you know what, Stephanie, you're the first person who didn't just tell me no. Like, it was maybe like a not yet, but if we do blank, 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 this is what we can do. Or if we do blank, 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 this is what we can do. And just being that person that doesn't embarrass them because they're embarrassed enough already. That
Mhm.
shame is there 100% because very much like you, I was there when I first wanted to buy a house, and I'm like, no one's going to lend me a dime, let alone money for a house at this stage. So when we can treat these folks of like, "Oh, I understand you're scared. I understand you're embarrassed. I understand that you feel and have probably been treated like no one wants to talk to you. No one wants to touch you with a 10-foot pole. But you know what? I got you. Don't worry. We will make sure that you are taken care of, whether it's a month, 6 months. My longest was 18 months to get to where they needed to be. And I don't know about you, but I need a paycheck in 18 months. So when we can really build our circle of people that know us, love us, and trust us by showing that we are worthy of trust, that we are worthy of loving them back. of truly being, curious about them and what they need to do, I think we're going to win each and every time because there are so many folks that don't
Who
want to
don't?
take the time and they're missing out on the biggest fans that they will ever have in this industry if they just take 5 minutes to listen and help put together a plan.
Yeah.
So speaking on that, talk to me a little bit about what sets you apart from other credit repair companies beyond that service. Maybe some products that you offer that are unique to James Warren Group.
Yeah, I mean there's quite a few things, but I would say a specific product would be our Dispute Eagle product. So I'll give you a little
Okay.
backstory to this. So we have a lot of clients who come to us, and of course it was always kind of like a catch-22 thing where they're like, "Hey, I had bad credit because this is what happened to me, and I'm low on funds." And then we're like, "Hey, okay, well, pay us, and then we'll take care of it." And they're like, "Hey, but I don't have funds."
Right.
Right.
Chicken and egg.
Right. So, we had to find a solution for that to fit everybody's budget. So I don't know. And again, this is just my knowledge. Maybe there's somebody
Mhm.
out there somewhere, but to my knowledge, I don't know another company who does what we do and also offers a complete do-it-yourself software for clients. So
That's amazing.
if you're sending a client over, our conversation is not trying to convince them why they need us. And I'm sure once this gets posted, somebody in my industry is going to watch this and then they're going to try to figure out how to implement it. But up
Yeah.
until now, nobody does it. So our goal is this: to help the person take an action. So if they are intimidated by cost, and even if we stretch the payments over a few months to help them, if that still doesn't fit their budget, well, then how do we still help the person? So
Yeah.
last year we launched Dispute Eagle, and we actually picked the eagle because my daughter, our 12-year-old daughter, picked the eagle, and she made like a design. It wasn't the final design, but she had
Uh-huh.
effort into it because she likes being creative and making stuff on her
That's
iPad.
awesome.
So
Yeah.
when we were trying to sit in this very office and we are like, what do we do? What should we call it? What should like it should be like a mascot. Like I don't want it to be different.
Yeah.
And so we were like looking up meanings behind things, and we were like, oh, the eagle would be cool. My daughter's like, yeah, let me see if I create something. So when she saw that it existed, it was about a month later, and I got the logo back, I got everything back, and I'm like, look. She's like, wait, you actually went with that? And I was like, yeah, of course we did. Like, it was a really good idea. I wasn't just saying that as
Yeah.
a parent. Like, I really believed it was a good idea. Um, so she's super happy about that. She's proud of it. She wears some of the
I
shirts that
love
we
it.
have for school and stuff. But
Yes.
anyway, the purpose of it, so it's a do-it-yourself software. So if you don't want to hire us and you feel like you can handle the dispute process, well, you could go sign up for Dispute Eagle. The only cost for the entire system and the credit reports and everything is $39.99 a month. And it is
That's
no
great.
contract. You can try it 1 month and cancel it. You're not locked into anything. And here's
Right.
what's really cool about it. So you order the credit report, the system automatically pulls in the report, scans the entire thing, finds the things that are disputable, and then tells you, here's all the things you can dispute. These are the accounts we found. And if you just agree that you want to dispute them, the next thing it does is it creates all the letters for them. And this all
Oh,
happens within
cool.
seconds. So you don't have to figure out what letters to write. You don't have to figure out how to read a credit report. You don't have to figure out consumer law. You don't have to get all technical and any of that.
Yeah.
The system does it all, and then it emails you the letter. All you have to do is just print it out, sign it, put your social, put a copy of the driver's license and proof of address, and you mail it
Mhm.
out. So it's really cool because of this. Like,
Yeah.
I nerd out on it a little bit, obviously, but the one thing I
Mhm.
really want to point out is how we use AI within the system. So
Okay.
with James Warren Group being open for 7 years, we have a backlog of all of the disputes we've ever done, all the accounts we've ever disputed, all the letters that we've ever done, because this is how we get our success rate. Well, we use that same Excel, and it's in Dispute Eagle. So Dispute Eagle already has 7 years of experience, a few 100,000 disputes over the years of experience right away. So when it's scanning your credit report and it says, "Oh, there's an AT&T collection," well, then it goes back and it says, "Okay, how many times have we disputed AT&T? Oh, and this was the letter out of all of them that got the highest deletion rate." And then that's the suggested one that's given to you, that is mailed to you, emailed to you right away for you to print out and send.
Right.
So
That's
I would
amazing.
say that is probably our top product offering that would make us different, because we're not going to convince any of your people on the phone that the only way to solve their problem is hiring us. We said
Yeah.
you can do it on your own, and we've said it for years. Now we're giving them the option to actually do it on their own. And we have videos
That's so
embedded in
cool.
there so they can see exactly step by step how to use it. I've walked plenty of people through their first round, and it's taken less than 7 minutes from creating an account to having the letters ready. So now we tell people, do you want to hire us for the dispute process, or do you want to handle the dispute process on your own? It's the same thing. Like, do you want to go cut your own grass, or do you know that you're going to pay more because we're going to do it for you? Whatever you want
Yeah.
to do is good for us. And then we let the client decide.
That's fantastic. And when I was working on my credit was 2016, 2017, something like that would have been invaluable. Because I'm a little, do it myself, a little stubborn. And so I did end up doing it myself, but there was a lot of like reading through message boards on my FICO and trying to figure out and doing this and like, does this letter work? And what if I just do the automated one when I pull my credit report? Does one work better than the? And it was like a part-time job.
Yeah.
And so knowing that I wouldn't have to necessarily do the research, but could still take that ownership and have that cost-effective way to do it. Because you're right, if my credit would have been fine if I could have paid my bills on time. And so I don't have the money necessarily to invest in, you know, at that time it was that credit report company that sounds like a law firm. We all know who
Yeah.
they are. And that was like your only option at that point. And so to spend, I think it was like 199 a month. I was like, well, if I had that, I'd be paying my bills. So knowing having a very cost effective thing that I could trust that came with data, that it wasn't just here's a boilerplate template that we wrote 15 years ago.
Right.
Let's hope it still works. That you're continuing to evolve, I think, is a wonderful way to provide that next level service for your clientele as well as your realtor partners. Well, Dylan, if people want to connect with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm all over social media. My preferred one is Facebook. I like Facebook the most. So if you go type in Dylan Shively, you will see me there. I would also say through James Warren Group, you can either go to our website, jameswarrengroupinc.com, or you can search Facebook and Instagram for James Warren Group. And you can also search website and both Facebook and Instagram for Dispute Eagle. I will say this with James Warren Group and Dispute Eagle, it is, I don't think there's really been a day in the last year and a half, 2 years, maybe one if you go back and check,
Mhm.
day that we've ever missed posting. We post free
Oh, wow.
content to learn about credit, how it works, what to do about it, promotional cards that are out, how to save
Mhm.
money, how to budget. We also do that through our app too. So we do have our James Warren Group app. If you go to your app store, and you have full access to see everything. We provide as much information as possible because, again, the goal is this. Maybe it's the one post you read that helps connect the
Yeah.
dot for you to say, okay, today's the day I'm actually going to do something. Whether you do it on your own or it's the phone call to us or whoever you want to use. The goal is for us to just force you to do something about it, because once you do something about it, you'll create momentum. Momentum will create the progress. And when you see a little bit of progress, then you'll be committed and you'll build that discipline, and then you'll get where you want to go. And if that's
Mhm.
one of our Facebook or Instagram posts, if that's information from our website, if it's from my personal page, wherever you get it, we just try to put it out everywhere for people to grab it and just do something.
Wonderful. Well, Dylan, thank you so much for joining us today on the Enterprising Agent. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. See you guys.